SMR Podcast Network. You should be listening. What's going on, everybody? RWT family, SMR Podcast listeners. It's Monday, and you know what that means. Well, this is going to be a thing, but you know it's Monday, and you know what that means. It's fucking Retro Day. And so to start the retro comeback, if you will, to Mondays on the exclusive Monday, the regular scheduled Monday, however the fuck you want to consider it, I'm going to give you 2 episodes. So we're going to bang out a Raw and Nitro, episode 58 to be exact, and then in a whole new episode that's going to drop aside from this one, you're going to get another pay-per-view review, and that one's going to be Halloween Havoc from 1996. But that is a different episode. This is Retro Rewind, episode 58. As we go through Raw and Nitro, we start with Monday Night Raw, the Fallout episode from In Your House, Buried Alive. October 21st, 1996, episode 180 of WWF's Monday Night Raw from Fort Wayne, Indiana. So the opening video talks about Bret Hart and how he decided to walk away from the WWF. Then, of course, it is announced that he has an interview later tonight with JR. Plus, Mr. Perfect is back tonight, and he'll be taking on Hunter Hearst Helmsley. But first, we start with a match, Psycho Sid versus Owen Hart. As Sid walks to the ring, King says that he hopes. Bret comes in tonight and says that he's retired. And Vince is like, no, that's not, I don't want that. He ain't about that life. And then Owen hits the ring, and King says, never judge a criminal by his lawyer, a.k.a. Owen's crooked, and I laughed. Sid throws Owen around for a bit. Then when he gets sent over the rope, Owen threats walking out because, you know, he's a heel. But decides to come back in, hits the rope, top rope drop kick, then goes for a running clothesline that sends Sid crashing to the floor. Of course, Owen's partner, Bulldog, has to hit the ring, so he comes running down the aisle, takes a couple shots on Sid. It lasts just long enough for the ref to stay distracted and allow Owen to hit a chop block on Sid as we go into the break. So you guys know me, if I see bad reffing, I gotta point it out. And as they're going to break, you can see Bulldog kick Sid a couple of times, and Hebner, sees it, and he does absolutely nothing. And I'm like, come on, bro, can you do your goddamn job? So we go to break, we come back. Sid is getting his knee worked over, and is getting it wrapped around the post. Owen distracts the ref again, allows Bulldog to do some more damage. Sid catches Owen's crossbody attempt, but Sid can't capitalize, and Owen takes him down, continues to work over the knee. So Big Giant Sid starts to make his comeback, and he slaps Owen, hits a choke slam, sets Owen up for the power bomb, but that's when Bulldog hits the ring and causes the DQ. All of a sudden, Shawn Michaels hits the ring to help Sid out. Together, they clear the ring, then they have some words before they go their separate ways, as we know that Sid will be taking on Shawn Michaels for the WWF Championship at Survivor Series. So I give the match 2 3/4, or 3/4. That's right. Yeah, I was gonna say 3/4 of a quarter, 3/4 of a star, 3/4. Owen is such a great worker. It's a joy to watch him work. Sid is crazy over, and that's, I understand why they get heat on him so much, because, it just builds because the crowd fucking loves this guy. And the fact that he's also a monster doesn't hurt. So it's all great stuff. The DQ finish is just one of those things, so a tag champion doesn't look bad. It's never bad, especially if you go out there and at least deliver first. So the commentators are going over the main event from last night's pay-per-view at In Your House, Buried Alive, and they explain that The Undertaker had the match won, but thanks to interference by the Executioner, who hit Taker, that's exactly what I wrote, who hit Taker over the head with a shovel, and Mankind, along with some other WWF superstars, buried The Undertaker, even though Mankind lost the match. Whatever. Undertaker had some pyro set off. No, not pyro, excuse me. Had some lightning hit the frickin' gravestone, and it spooked everybody. So that just knows that the dead man will not be buried for long. So, if you did not catch my review of In Your House, Buried Alive, it's already out on the Spotify's, by the by. But, if you listen to that, you'll know that, it was, I go through full detail of the main event, and I found out who the Executioner is. I guess they're going to have a feud. But the three dudes, I got to talk about the three dudes because this is some of like the oddball three fucking nerds out there to help bury The Undertaker. I mean, they all just recently came off of feuds, but in like retrospect, if you're from the outside looking in, you're like, this is the most random group of geeks out there burying this fucking dude. It's Goldust, it's Justin Hawk Bradshaw, and it's fucking Crash. Yeah, that guy. Like, what the fuck? By the way, I gave that match 5 stars. So just plugging that out there if you guys are bored and looking for more stuff to listen to. Anyway, Tag Team Championship #1 Contenders match, Smoking Guns versus the Godwins. JR is back on commentary and asks Vince if he got his headset fixed. And Vince says, well, it looks like you were sitting on the mic cord last week, and this week you're not, so I think everything's fine. We get to the match. Phineas hits the ring with a piglet in his arms, and JR says it's a real-life BLT. I laughed, and that's when King screams that the pig peed on him, and I laughed even more. JR says that Bart is so ugly, he couldn't get a date on his tombstone. Again, I'm fucking just dying at the commentary, because it's like, I'm really not invested in the match. I'm already not invested. They stall for about 90 seconds. Bart hits a scoop slam. We go to commercial, come back. Billy low bridges Phineas as he hits the ropes. They beat on Phineas on the outside. Billy misses a splash in the corner. Henry Godwin gets a hot tag. Phineas and Henry whip Bart into the ropes. End up running into Billy, knocking him off the apron, which has been like the move that they've been doing for the last 2 or 3 weeks. Henry takes advantage of this, hits the slop drop. They pick up the win. I give it 1 3/4. Short, sweet, not much to talk about. Biggest high spot was the double team whip. Commentary, absolute gold for this one. We are informed that the Hall of Fame ceremony is going to happen during Survivor Series weekend, and some of the names include Jimmy Snuka and Vince McMahon Sr. We cut to the back, and Mr. Perfect is doing some Hindu squats, just warming up for his match against Hunter. That's when we see Hunter running up with a goddamn production trunk, and it runs it right into Perfect, and he goes down, grabbing his knee, yelling, "God damn it!" And I'm just like, all right, well, just... That does not feel like 96. It feels like something you would hear in like 98, but still, good stuff. And so Perfect is down. Puts in question the main event for the evening. As we come back from break, Stone Cold is running through the back as they're filming Saturday Night Live Wire, and it's official. Stone Cold is the first man to use the word jabroni in a rant about Bret Hart. Or even just the word jabroni, period.
Because you bring me up here, you sit me back here in the green room like some jabroni and show half of a match. We went down in the basement, the famous Stu Hart basement, and I whipped his for 30 minutes. Put the sharpshooter on him for 10 minutes. Then Stu came down. Steve, let go of Bret. So I beat Stu's ass. Yeah.
Steve yelling, so I beat Stu's ass. It's just the freaking best. So we get to the Bret Hart interview. JR is out there and asks him, what's next for Bret Hart? Is it answering the challenge from Stone Cold? Are you going to make movies? Are you going to take a back office position? What's next for you? Oh, welcome back, by the way. Bret says he missed everybody. Well, then he goes on to say that, the rival wrestling organization did make him a great offer, and he has nothing bad to say about them. So he had a tough decision to go back to WWF or find new goals in a new place. He says that he isn't greedy for money, he's greedy for respect. But after a lot of soul searching, he owes everything to the WWF fans, and so because of that, he will not be going anywhere, and he will be in WWF forever. Vince is beyond ecstatic over that, as you can tell just from his face and his just like extra giddy. He looks like he's going to fucking cry. He says people have left because he's a sore loser. People say he's left because he's a sore loser, and he says, maybe I am. He says Shawn Michaels is an opponent, not his enemy. And now Shawn may be younger, popular, and some may even say cuter than I am, but there's 2 things Shawn can never be. He'll never be as tough nor as smart as me. He quotes Nixon and then accepts the challenge of Stone Cold Steve Austin at Survivor Series. As he says to the camera in the back as superstars are gathered around a monitor listening, we see Brian Pillman jump around with excitement as Bret accepts Austin's challenge, but Austin is standing in front of him, and he turns around and gives him the dirtiest look you've ever seen. Bret calls Austin Stone Cold and says let's see who kicks whose ass come Survivor Series. He goes on to talk about a little boy that worshipped him and says that little boy got real sick really quick and he became the sickest boy in Canada. He promised that little boy that if he could kick out, he would come out of retirement, and as he said that, he started to come out of it. But unfortunately, that young man didn't make it, and that young man was Bret's nephew. He finishes promo by saying he came back to be a role model for the kids out there. He doesn't pose well in girly books, but he is the best there is, the best there was, and the best there ever will be. And he's back. Goddamn Karate Fighters tournament. It's like fucking Rock'em Sock'em Robots. I have no idea why this is a thing, but whatever. Mr. Perfect is coming out with Mark Mero, the Intercontinental Champion. Gorilla Monsoon is out there to make sure that Perfect doesn't wrestle, so Hunter eggs him on. Perfect says, Mark Mero is a stand-up guy, and he's willing to wrestle for you. Hunter doesn't want that. He's like, I have no legal obligation. He's like, I'm not legally obligated to wrestle this man tonight. Monsoon agrees, and he's like, you're right. You're not legally obligated to wrestle anybody. Monsoon even tells him, you're welcome to leave. But that's where Hunter notices the gold belt and says, if Mero puts the title on the line, I'll take him on. Mero is then goaded in to this by Mr. Perfect, and then they make it official, and then Monsoon makes it even more official. Because he's like, hey, you don't make the matches, I make the matches. So that's your main event, the Intercontinental Championship match, Mark Mero versus Hunter Hearst Helmsley. Slow start to start the match as we catch it already in progress. Mero clotheslines Hunter over the ropes and uses Sable to block Mero's senton attempt, but Sable gives Hunter a good slap for his troubles. Hunter has the advantage, hitting a jumping knee strike and then throws Mero into the corner before posing like a geek. And then we come back from break, and Mero is on the offense. He hits a slingshot leg drop off the apron, then follows up with a Samoan drop, calls for the Wild Thing, a.k.a. a shooting star press. Hunter sees Mero climbing the turnbuckle, shoves the ref into the ropes, which then crotches Mero. Hunter tries to superplex Mero, but Mero fights it off, lands a reverse moonsault for a near fall. That's when Hunter becomes a total douche and just pushes Mero into the referee. They're both down. Hunter then grabs a chair, brings it into the ring. Sable is trying to stop him, but it's Perfect that takes the chair away from him, and he turns around and levels Mero right in the head with said chair. Hunter then picks up Mero's lifeless body, hits the pedigree, and becomes the new Intercontinental Champion. I gave this a 3. I said, solid work. Mero's a damn good worker. Honestly, it's something I am not used to saying, okay? I did not realize how good of a worker Mark Mero is, so good for him. But it was the swerve from Mr. Perfect and Hunter that takes the cake for me in this one. Nice way to end the show. So we get an hour-long show. We get 3 matches and a Bret Hart segment. The opener was fine. Sid is over like crazy because of that. Bret Hart and him both get nods for Wrestler of the Week. Bret Hart's segment was all right. He's not exactly a promo, and you can totally tell that just by listening to the guy. And the tag team match was kind of just there. The main event was pretty good, and the swerve was kind of unexpected, which, really is never a bad thing. So 2 thumbs up. Easy watch. Makes the grade even easier. Let's get into a little bit more of a fun show, though, if you will. October 21st, 1996, episode 58 of WCW Monday Night Nitro from Manco, Minnesota. Mankanto, Minnesota. I fucking butchered the shit out of that place. We start with Shivani and Schiavone as they bring up how Savage looked after watching the video from Elizabeth. Zbyszko tells Savage to hide his wallet and his checkbook because all ex-wives are out to ruin their lives. Then they show us the clip from last week where Elizabeth explains her feelings, admits her feelings for him. He says nothing, then leaves the arena. Zbyszko brings up how timing is bad, that time can level mountains, but WCW is running out of time. We need a leader.
Timing is everything. Timing is everything in the execution of moves and the science of wrestling. Time, Tony, is a strong force. Time can level mountains, but WCW is running out of time. We need a leader.
The opening bout, Bobby Eaton versus Chris Jericho, and Shivani informs Zbyszko that Sting is in the building tonight. It's a bit odd to see Eaton in the ring considering he just passed away not too long ago. The camera cuts to the crowd and we see fake Sting and Six with a camcorder in hand and an NWO banner beside them or behind them. My guess is Six is doing some scouting as they have a match at the pay-per-view, him and Jericho. the bell rang, and then for some reason the bell rings again, so I guess the match is restarted. Whatever. Zbyszko says that true joy is watching your ex-wife drive off a cliff. He must not like some people in this world. That's all I can say about that. A lot of rest holds to start out, then Jericho hits a drop kick on Eaton off the apron to the floor. They trade right hands and knock each other down. Both roll outside. Jericho throws Eaton into the post, tries to follow up with a back elbow. Eaton dodges it, then gets back body dropped onto the concrete on the outside. Bobby Eaton shuts down Jericho's momentum as he catches him with a swinging neck breaker, then lands a top rope knee drop for a near fall. Count was a tad bit slow. Jericho hits his jumping super kick, falls up with a top rope drop kick for the win. I gave it 2 3/4. I said the ending was a lot better than the beginning. Eaton looked all right, but way too many rest holds for me. Jericho didn't get to do much craziness, but he did get the win, but he looked better than Eaton, so I guess that's a thumbs up. Shivani is out to interview Jericho, and Jericho says that it's funny that 6 days away, he's going to take on Six, but Six is just the first step in shutting down the NWO. He says they're unbeaten, unproven, and they've never really been given a run for their money. But in Las Vegas, Six, you're coming out with a loss, and I'm coming out with a win. Next match, we get Jimmy Graffiti versus Dean Malenko. Now, Jimmy Graffiti is a gimmick through and through. This guy has fucking paint on his fingers and on his boots, for fuck's sake. Malenko is still carrying around one of Rey Mysterio's masks. He'll meet Mysterio at the pay-per-view, and Graffiti is going move for move against Malenko. Somewhat mind-blowing. Graffiti hits a float-over DDT, and then a big sit-out powerbomb follows up by catching Malenko in the chin with a thrust kick. Graffiti almost rolls onto the commentary table, but goes back in, gets dropped, then gets left on the table, basically drops himself there, bangs his head on the floor, just ridiculous. Zbyszko calls fake Sting stink. I really like that a lot. I really wish I could remember how to say that. Zbyszko believes Stink is out here to do some scouting, just like how Six was earlier. Malenko almost kills Graffiti with a high angle back suplex. He hits a crossbody, but that sends both men outside as they go over the ropes. Graffiti lands on his neck on the apron, and then somehow is right back up. He gets caught climbing the turnbuckle. Malenko attempts a superplex, but Graffiti doesn't want it. So instead, he knocks him down, hits a top rope drop kick, but instead Malenko catches him and applies the cloverleaf for the win. Really fun. 3.5. I wanted to talk more shit about Graffiti, but whatever. I'm not sure if it was Malenko carrying this guy or if he's actually this good. Either way, again, this was fun. DDP versus Sergeant Pittman. My man Emir is hanging out with Pittman. Teddy Long. DDP jumps Pittman from behind. It's an elbow drop to the lower stomach, a.k.a. A low blow elbow drop. Pittman powered out of a cover from DDP by pressing him off like a freaking bench press, and he throws him onto the back of Nick Patrick. Hilarious. Pittman goes to work on DDP on the outside, wrapping him around the post, and then working on his left arm, including a finisher, a code red, better known as an armbar. DDP apparently gave up somehow, according to Shivani. Pittman gets up, gets in Patrick's face, that leads to DDT sneaking up behind him and hitting the diamond cutter for the win. I gave it 1 1/4. I said there isn't much about this match. Pittman's work outside the ring was probably the best part about this match, shockingly. And Teddy Long and Nick Patrick have a conversation after the match like they always do. Nick Patrick is then interviewed by Tony Schiavone, and he says that if Teddy Long would have stayed off the apron, then maybe he would have heard DDP submit, but he didn't, and he needs to remove Long from the apron, so because of that, that's, all this is Teddy Long's fault, a.k.a. Emir. Schiavone says that he's sure that Nick Patrick is the NWO ref. Patrick states that he is in way better shape than that guy, and says, go ask Randy Anderson. That's probably your guy. He threatens Schiavone by saying, do you remember what happened to the last announcer that made accusations on me? And then walked away. They bring up Ric Flair and how he was jumped by the NWO last week. Then we see Jeff Jarrett's promo where he's saying that he's going to make the NWO respect Ric Flair, the WCW, and wrestling heritage that goes with it. He has a match against the Giant at the pay-per-view, and Schiavone says that Flair will need surgery on his shoulder. Jeff Jarrett versus Ron Stunned, because in WCW you got to beat a Giant to take on the Giant. As Jarrett is strutting around the ring, Flair starts walking down the aisle, and it turns into a goddamn strut off, and Ron Studd just says, you know what, I'm going to fucking get out of here. And he walks out of the ring, or climbs out of the ring, however say it, and Flair struts, and the chants for him, and then all of a sudden, Jarrett does it, and then he fucking gets booed, and Flair and Jarrett have some words, and they shake hands, and then Flair leaves. And then for some reason, the bell rings, and I'm like, why? Why did this take so goddamn long? Jarrett's all over Studd, landing all kinds of punches, and Studd uses his strength to fight Jarrett off and holds him up for a chokehold. Jarrett suplexes this giant fucker with ease and finishes him off with a figure four. I gave it a 2, short, sweet. Studd did all of 2 things, be strong and go over for the suplex, and he did them perfectly. Jarrett and Flair's strut off was somewhat entertaining, but add a shot of Studd outside in disbelief, and then you got a real winner. Schiavone's ringside, and he asks Jarrett about his match with the Giant. And Jarrett says we're 6 days away, and it's time for Jeff Jarrett to put up or shut up. And he says that the WCW needs to start playing offense instead of defense and turn into the hunters instead of the hunted. He goes on to guarantee that he won't get chokeslammed by the Giant. That's when Flair walks into the interview, and he says that last week someone talked good about Ric Flair, and that's not something that happens a lot. He gives the NWO credit for outsmarting and outnumbering the Horsemen, but worst of all, they played the game dirtier. Flair says that he's going to be in Jarrett's corner right after he gets off of the surgical table, and if he and Jarrett were to team up, they'd kick the NWO's ass. So the second hour kicks off with its the 3-man booth and the pyro, obviously Bischoff, Heenan, Mike Tenay. Heenan talks about Flair being in Jarrett's corner, and Tenay and Bischoff talk about Savage and Elizabeth. They're hoping Savage can be ready for Sunday. Bischoff thinks that Savage is going to show up Sunday either ready to fight or he's gone for good. Lex Luger versus Roadblock. And I'm like, another gimmick? I'm like watching Raw all of a sudden. Luger fires out of the gate, lands some punches from the top rope, and no-sells an atomic drop. Luger suplexes this nerd and then misses an elbow drop. Arn Anderson appears on screen, cuts a promo on Luger saying that he heard Luger say, I quit, before he said it for me, to me. And I'm like, huh? What? The idea is he's going to make him say I quit. At Halloween Havoc, time is running out for you. Roadblock is tossing Luger around, buckle to buckle, hitting a splash, and then Luger hulks up, power slams Roadblock. He tries not once, not twice, but 3 times to rack this nerd after dumping him like a sack of fucking potatoes twice. No, like a sack of shit twice. And then somehow he was able to balance him on the third one and rack him. I gave it a 1 3/4. Luger sold way too much for this gimmick nerd. This nerd sold the rack like he was getting dumped. You know, I don't know what he sold more, getting dumped on the floor or the rack. Like, fucking shit. This was a fucking shit show like nobody's business. Lee Marshall's on the phone, and he's in Phoenix, Arizona, where they'll be next week, and he gives a shout-out to the somehow undefeated Arizona State Sun Devils. Good for them. And I yell, and this is exactly my words, holy fuck, they're back, is my exact reaction as I heard this music. Yeah, if you can't tell from the freaking music, it is the American Males. That's right, the last time I believe we saw this team and this matchup, which is the American Males and Harlem Heat for the WCW World Tag Team Championships. The last time we saw this, the American Males beat the Harlem Heat to become Tag Team Champions. But this isn't the first time we've seen this. Actually, this is the first time, I should say, that we've seen The American Male's back on Nitro since Scotty Rage got taken out by the NWO some time ago in that whole backstage brawl where like Rey Mysterio got lawn darted into the fucking trailer. So Stevie Ray power slams Riggs, then misses an elbow drop. Now Booker and Bagwell are in there, and Bagwell hip tosses Booker over the top rope. And then Bagwell hits a giant back body drop. Booker totally went up for it. We got the break, come back. Harlem Heat are beating on Bagwell, and we see Hall and Nash in the same spot that Six and everybody else was all night long recording the match. Bischoff talks about how the NWO wants to take over Nitro. Harlem Heat are beating on Bagwell until he lands a drop kick. That's when Scotty Riggs gets a hot tag. He's taking it to both guys. He and Bagwell hit the double drop kick on Stevie. That's when Colonel Parker gets on the apron along with Sherry, and they end up eating a punch from Riggs, which is enough to cause a long enough distraction for Booker to come up and lay into Riggs with a leg lariat and pick up the win. I gave it a 2.5. I was hoping for a little bit more out of this match, but this is a go-home show for Halloween Havoc, so of course it wasn't going to be all out. It was nice seeing the American Males back. It was even better watching Harlem Heat bully them around. If you watch the replay, it's just glorious stuff. Bagwell gets in there and just in time to break up the pin, but Nick Patrick does nothing because, well, Nick Patrick's a fucker. So we get the Fantastics versus the Faces of Fear. And I'm looking at the Fantastics like, I know these guys. How in the hell do I know these guys? And then all of a sudden it dawns on me. These are the same guys that used to wrestle in the NWA back in the 80s. Former U.S. Tag Team Champions, for God's sake. It's Bobby Fulton and Tommy Rogers. The thing is I'm all excited that I spotted a team from the 80s, and the reality is Ming could give a fuck who the hell you are, okay? He's in there beating the shit out of these dudes like only Ming can, okay? The only way Ming ends up on the mat is via double team. Bischoff informs us that there's video footage that proves that Hollywood Hogan is a absolute manipulator. All of a sudden, we see Bobby Fulton get a back body drop into the arms of Barbarian, who hoists Fulton up and then power bombs him. I guess Bischoff is off sucking up to Ted because every few minutes they're talking about the fucking Braves. By Ted, I mean Ted Turner. And I'm like, dude, nobody gives a shit. Ming hits a pile driver on Tommy Rogers, or hits a pile driver on Fulton, but Tommy Rogers breaks up the pin. Fulton hits a spin kick, and Ming barely sells it. Tommy Rogers gets a hot tag. He comes in, top rope drop kick on Barbarian. Then the Fantastics turn on the double team work. Fulton gets yelled at by the ref for being in the ring. That's when Tommy Rogers tries to hit a crossbody on Barbarian, but Barbarian is a Barbarian. So, of course, he catches him and then just kills him by allowing Ming to kick this fucking nerd. He just kicks him right in the fucking head. He just runs and kicks him dead in the head, like right in the face. Fucking super dead. 2 3/4 of a quarter, 2, 3, whatever. You know what I mean. Nothing over the top. Faces of Fear being themselves. Kind of no-selling, but still being absolute badasses, so it evens out. Bischoff talks about the NWO wanting to buy time, so the NWO Sting is going to come out, and apparently Bischoff knows something because he keeps saying there's a surprise. Then he brings up how Savage wasn't shown yet and probably won't be there tonight, and they re-show the entire fucking video of Elizabeth and Randy from a couple of weeks ago. Total waste of time. Then we got JL versus NWO Sting, and it kind of chaps my ass to see this nerd imposter taking Sting's theme, as it is a bitchin' theme. The NWO is walking through the crowd to be ringside for this match, so the match is going on, and fake Sting is trying to be as Sting as he can, and all of a sudden they cut to the crowd, and we see a man walking down the aisle, and I yell, "It's fucking Sting!" Crow Sting has debuted. The face paint is a little different, but the coat is all the damn same. So recognizable, it's fucking scary. He hits the ring, he goes after Bogus Sting, hits a Scorpion Death Drop, follows up with a Stinger Splash, and finishes off by locking in the Scorpion Deathlock. That's when the NWO jumps in the ring. DiBiase grabs the mic and says that the NWO needs a guy like you. The NWO is taking over, and no one can stop it. He claims that joining them is like being a part of a family. Nash quotes the Doors frontman John Morrison and tells Sting to break on through to the other side. Hall asks a question that he's been carrying around. After carrying the WCW for 9 years, what do you have to show for it? He tells him that they brought out an imposter because they knew that they could get the better of him. He says, no one knows about the bogus imposter better than us. After, obviously referring to Fake Razor and Diesel. They know a little something about imposters. We're finally hear the famous lines of the NWO.
Jump NWO, you're NWO for life.
Sting says that he may or may not be in your price range, but one thing's for sure about the Stinger, nothing's for sure. So, obviously, no match, no rating, because, that's how it goes. So, the match is supposed to be Chris Benoit versus Savage, but Savage isn't in the building, according to Heenan. Eric Bischoff goes to find Savage to talk to him. All of a sudden, Savage's music hits, the pyro goes off, and that's when we see Savage walk out in all black with a black cowboy hat to top it off. Bischoff rushes over just to apologize and says that he has a video to prove that how much of Hulk Hogan, how big of a scum Hulk Hogan is. Jesus Christ, I can't talk tonight. We got a video of him on the set of the Three Ninjas movies, and I totally forgot that he was in the movie first off, and then I'm looking at his outfit, and I'm like, you know what? This guy looks like the perfect dude to play Mermaid Man in like a live edition of Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy for you fucking SpongeBob nerds out there. So he goes up to the director and he bitches about the schedule, and he's like, look, man, he's like, I'm the king of Hollywood. The NWO is taking over this movie. Hogan makes Giant the fucking producer, is whatever. He's like, I'm the director, and he's the producer. And they go on and they film Elizabeth, and she doesn't, she doesn't want to do her part, and he's like egging her on, like, tell Randy you love him, and she's like, no, fuck that. So Hogan's like yelling at Elizabeth to make her do what she wants, and then the Giant comes in with this rando line that if you were at one point taking this seriously, he broke you.
You got the right lens on that camera, boy!
Just fucking hilarious, the Giant is in that one instance. Hogan then barks at the Giant to take Elizabeth to the trailer. Hogan yells at her that he will cut the promo on Savage, calls him the macho creep. They cut to Savage and Bischoff saying that, Savage is just sitting there speechless for a little bit, and then he finally speaks up and talks about how fragile friendships and relationships can be. Hogan, life is fragile. That's when Savage walks to the back as the show goes off the air. Besides a couple of matches, this was a very easy show of Nitro to watch. We got to see some good matches. Luger dumps a gimmick on his head twice because he's really fat and whatever. While the other gimmick actually showed up and put on a fucking match with Dean Malenko. Probably the match of the night. The Faces of Fear destroys some older fellas, and it's not a bad sight at all. And then, of course, Sting is back. Yeah, I could bag on Hogan, how he looks stupid, and yet the Giant was somewhat kind of funny. The icon returns. So that tops Mermaid Man and Giant Barnacle Boy. 2 thumbs up. And this evening I have 5, technically a tag team, but Ming and Barbarian for Wrestler of the Week. Always give candidates for Wrestler of the Week. Ming and Barbarian, Dean Malenko, Owen Hart, and Sid Vicious. Now, this has been voted on and had stayed voted on for quite some time. So don't even worry about voting. The winner of Wrestler of the Week will have their theme played at the end of this episode, like you know how they do each and every week. So that is it for me, boys and girls. I appreciate y'all hanging out with me. I appreciate you stopping by and listening to episode 1 of 2 for your Monday of Retro Rewind. Your second episode is a pay-per-view. It's going to be a fun one, but here I have a very special treat for those who listened all the way to the end. Besides giving you my fantastic plugs, which, by the way, you can follow Smart Mark Radio on all platforms of social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at SMRPodNet, everywhere. And we are wherever you can get your podcasts. Spotify is our main hub, but we are also located on, I believe it's Google Play or YouTube Play or YouTube Music, I believe is what it is, and iTunes as well as Breaker and just the direct Anchor.fm website /app, if you will. But what I want to offer, what I am trying to entice you fine folks here to do is, yes, today, Monday, you've got 2 episodes you're listening to. This is 1. You're going to go listen to number 2. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to take the time to share this episode, share both episodes with any pro wrestling fans that you know of, anybody that thinks that they would get a kick out of listening to these shows. Because the reason behind it is if by Tuesday morning, and let's make it Tuesday afternoon. By Tuesday afternoon at 4 o'clock, I'll count it 4 o'clock p.m. Pacific time. If both of these episodes have a combined 50 listens, I will drop another episode of Retro Rewind. The morning before. That's right, the morning before Max. So Wednesday morning, you'll get a Retro Rewind to go along with a Great Dynamite, and then that follow-up day, you're going to get me on Max. So that's it. That's the goal. Get this one to 25, get it to 50 for all I care. This one and the next episode of Retro Rewind, which again is Halloween Havoc 1996, it's going to be episode 1 of 2, and that one's going to be 2 of 2, if you will, for this Monday. Get them both to 50, and Wednesday, I drop another episode 59 of Retro Rewind, the Fallout episode of Halloween Havoc. So, with all that, I'm out of here, boys and girls. Thank you so much. Remember, share this with your friends. Hit that follow button. The whole 9 yards. 50 is the overall goal. And we get another one on Wednesday. Catch y'all around the bend skis. Peace out.
SMR Podcast Network. You should be listening.